You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the Power Platform Show. Thanks for joining me today. I hope today's guest inspires and educates you on the possibilities of the Microsoft Power Platform. Now, let's get on with the show. In this episode, we're going to focus on Calendly and the impact that it has had in the market and even the future of scheduling. Calendly is a tool that I've used now since about 2018, and I couldn't live without it when it comes to scheduling, being that I live at the bottom of the world and multi-time zone. I work mainly for clients across the US and Europe. It has been an absolute lifesaver to me. My guest is from Portland, Oregon in the US. He works at Calendly. He's the VP for the product marketing of Calendly. So a pleasure to have him on the show. He's received a 40 under 40 award for the Business Journal. He plays drums. He's a wrestling coach. He's a reader, a writer. And are you into cycling? Is that right?
Yes, I love to bike.
Awesome. You can find links, of course, to his bio and his socials in the show notes for this episode. Anything we discuss, if we talk about links, etc., they'll be in the show notes. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Good to have you on the show. I'm excited. I always, when your team reached out and discussed coming on the podcast, I've been a massive fan of Calendly. And I suppose specifically I'm a massive fan because I work for multiple companies at any time. And, I'm at the bottom of the world, as I said in the intro, and I'm dealing with multiple time zones, but not just that nuance. I'm dealing with multiple schedules. And for in the past, let's say 10 plus years ago before I came across Calendly, I used to work at, doing automations between two schedules so I didn't get conflicts, because people in, whatever company I was working for would go, hey, I can see a gap in your schedule, but they couldn't see that gap wasn't in my other schedule, right? And so to run this podcast, which has been running 7 years now, Calendly has been with me every step of the way. It's the way I use to run scheduling at scale. And I couldn't live, honestly, the time savings it saves for me is absolutely phenomenal. And so I'm excited to have you on the show. And before we start, tell us a bit about food, family, and fun. I always like my guests to kind of give some background outside of their day job.
Yeah, so let's see, food. Well, I live in Portland, Oregon, right? And we are kind of like a food epicenter for the United States. A lot of chefs have moved from around the world to Portland. And so we're really lucky. I can walk just, 3 blocks away and, be able to dine at some amazing places. So that's really great. And I'd say probably our family's favorite food is kind of the newer kind of takes on Mexican food right now. We probably go do that once a week. Nice. Speaking of family, my daughters, I spend a lot of time helping them with their sports. They both play soccer and wrestle. And so, you mentioned earlier, wrestling coach. And so I hadn't wrestled since high school. And then I started volunteering. And next thing I know, I'm assistant wrestling coach for my youngest daughter's wrestling team, which has been really fun to be involved in that. And so that's pretty much me. If I'm not working, I'm probably spending time with my family.
Nice. I'm interested to hear the story of how Calendly got started. What was the origin story of Calendly?
Yeah. So I probably couldn't tell it as well as our founder, Tope, but some parts of the story that I really love are that, Tope was a enterprise salesperson for technology companies, right? And he had gone to school for computer science. So he has this amazing brain where he both has a product manager's brain as well as a salesperson's and customer-facing team's brain. And he was working as a salesperson for large companies. And he noticed it was really difficult to find a time to meet with customers and prospects. And then not only be able to meet with that customer prospect, but also be able to bring in, like, say a sales engineer and be able to figure out, is it 2:00 Eastern time or is it 5:00, somewhere else when this person is available, right? And then you have to be able to line that up with the customer and all the people on their end. And so he ended up building Calendly as a solo founder with an engineering team. And here we are today. And so it's really moved beyond just being able to kind of find a time of what works
Yeah.
to also be like team-based scheduling, like I mentioned earlier, being able to bring on that sales engineer, being able to bring a recruiter into a call with you as a hiring manager, being able to allow your customers to get email notifications before the meeting so that they don't forget about the meeting, or maybe after the meeting, sending them a case study, an ROI calculator, things like that. And then, of course, we try to be this neutral Switzerland, if you will, between all the different platforms out there. And so we really believe in our integrations. And so that's, of course, integrating with Microsoft, like we're going to talk about today, integrating with those other guys right out there, as well as integrating with CRM packages, not just Microsoft's, but Salesforce and HubSpot, and really concentrating on that work of building this ecosystem.
Yeah. Amazing. And I tell you what, I saw a post recently where somebody said, and it would have been in the last 12 months, that, Google had come out something that was going to be a Calendly killer, using AI and scheduling. And I had to laugh at that, because I think it's something like 82% of the world's commercial email runs on M365 from Microsoft. And so I thought, from your lens of living in Google land, awesome. But Google are not known for owning the enterprise when it comes to mail. If you looked, I think, chopped off the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies, you would find squarely 99+% of those will all be running a Microsoft-based email system, being M365 and Outlook. And so I chuckled at that because, no time soon will I'll be moving my commercial email to Google. And as I say, I think that 82% of the world's commercial email sits in M365. I think it's an amazing tool. And of course, people say to me, why using Calendly and not using, Find Time or something like that from Microsoft? The thing is, Microsoft are good if you are just working for a single organization. They struggle the minute you're in a multi-tenanted environment. And my world and what I'm seeing a lot more with, businesses is that individuals work for potentially multiple companies at a time. I work for over at least 3 companies at a time, simultaneous any time, about to take on a 4th. And so, that means 4 email addresses, 4 calendars, that I'm running. And so for me, I actually use multiple calendars, so multiple subscriptions with Calendly. And as I say, massive time saver for me in how I coordinate my life and make it easy across time zone. Just this week, a team of people in Canada wanted to book time with me in 2 weeks' time. And you don't want to be in that hockey game of backwards and forwards around, is the morning of this date work for you? And then with the time zone different, I'm a day ahead of you right now from a date perspective. It gets very confusing. And so I just find it so easy to allocate my time. And, the other thing that I find as a killer feature for me is that I have some people that want one-on-one coaching around the world. And so I can integrate Stripe Payment Gateway straight into there, make it super simple for them to ad hoc buy an hour here or there and be paid for it without kind of raising invoices and doing all that kind of stuff on the side. So, and I think the other feature that is really powerful that I use a lot is this ability to get notifications pre-meeting. I can send out 4 hours before a notification. Like all that automation is just taken care of in the product. When you think about, or if you look at your customer base, how big is it now?
We now have more than 20 million users.
Wow.
Yeah, all over the world, right? And we're a product-led company, meaning people can just sign up for Calendly for free, and the product will onboard them and will prompt them to upgrade to a paid plan with their credit card if they will. And if they need to reach out to a salesperson, they can. But that's really helped us grow quite a bit.
Yeah. Are you seeing a massive adoption from the Microsoft ecosystem?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that the Microsoft ecosystem is an extremely important ecosystem to us because, Microsoft has one of everything, right? Yeah. As you know, but they don't always go deep on something. And so they have product bookings, but they're not going to make it, their main business. And we really care about what we offer. And so we can go much deeper than they might go in terms of like team-based scheduling, in terms of building out integrations with competing products to Microsoft that Microsoft might not want to do. And so again, we try to be that neutral Switzerland between, Google's ecosystem, Microsoft, Salesforce, et cetera, so that you can use all those products together. Because as you know, people are not only working multiple jobs, or they might have Google, Office products at one company and then maybe Microsoft at another company, but their customers have different platforms. And so you need to be able to integrate Calendly with Zoom as well as, integrate it with Microsoft Teams for your customer's sake as well.
That actually is another feature that I have been in the transition when you didn't have Teams integration. And so Zoom, back in, I suppose, 2019, 2020 timeframe, and then seeing the Teams integration come in just absolutely perfect, right? So a custom Teams link, being able to be embedded in to the appointment, I think is super important. Where do you see Calendly sitting in the market of tools out there in this category? So, calendar management as such.
So I would say, right now, there's the calendar companies out there, right? There's like Microsoft Outlook and there's Google Calendar and so forth. And we haven't tried to replace that. What we're really more trying to do is help you book external meetings with people that can help further your business. So that could be booking a meeting with a salesperson who doesn't have access to your Outlook calendar. They can't find that time of when you're available. And you don't want to be emailing back and forth to find a time. Or being able to book a meeting with that recruit, who's going to help build your business, or that investor, right? Or like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people are kind of having side hustles. So at night, they're taking their expertise from their job and they're booking meetings with somebody that they met on X or on LinkedIn and saying, here's my Calendly link. And here's a Stripe, or PayPal integration where you can pay me for this meeting and you can build a little bit of side, revenue and so forth. I would say that right now we are the Kleenex, if you will, of the scheduling link world. But to us, that's not enough. I mean, our mission is to help companies and people build relationships with the people that matter in their lives. And so that could be those recruits, those customers, those investors, right? And then, once they build relationships, we've done a lot around scheduling to help build those relationships. But increasingly what you're going to see from us is us offering other products and features out there that help you, build your relationships even more.
Dynamics Minds is one event you don't want to miss. Microsoft product managers and industry leaders from all over the world converge in Slovenia to explore the latest in Dynamics 365, the Power Platform, and Copilot. Expect 3 days of in-person community connection, trailblazing insights, and a location sure to inspire our creativity. Early bird tickets are on sale now, and podcast listeners get 10% off by registering via the link in the show notes. Hope to see you there.
I find it interesting that, the diversification. I see, companies create a killer product, but then sometimes they diversify too far out. They go away, they move away from their core. And one of the things I don't like, and I don't know how you factor this into your thinking, is then, you buy a product and it comes with, 50 wingdings on the side, and you don't want those 50 wingdings, and they're being promoted as why it's so awesome. And listen, I wanted to be able to cleanly schedule. That's all I wanted to do. How do you make sure you don't create, a tons of, do you want fries with that and the Coke and everything else? When really, I just wanted the burger. I just want good, clean calendar scheduling without any fluff. How do you make sure your product team doesn't try to be all things to all people, but really stay tight on the core?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I've been at Calendly almost 4 years, and other companies I've worked with that are making as much revenue as we're making would have probably already come out with all kinds of features, right? And had a bloated UX. And like Calendly didn't. Calendly really thought about how do we really master scheduling? And I think one of the ways that Calendly did that was we have such a focus on design. And so when I look at customer research reports from my team where we interview customers and so forth, why they chose us, time and time again, one of the main reasons is that Calendly is easy to use. And that ease of use really comes back to our engineering talent, our design talent, our product managers, and everybody that's helping them make sure they're not building something that's too complex, too bolted together. And so our customers have actually been pulling us into these other areas outside of just scheduling. And we think because we have such a design-forward, user experience-led culture, that we can build these things without it seeming too rickety and bolted on and so forth. But we want our customers to keep us honest and let us know how we're doing.
You mentioned with one of the things with Microsoft, and I've worked with Microsoft for over 30 years now, and with the last 21 just, being focused around their Dynamics CRM product and Power Platform, and now getting heavily into the AI side of things. And one of the things, you're right about Microsoft, they do V1 of a lot of features, not products, but features, and really the calendar tool I'd call like their forms tool is a feature. And it definitely is not market leading by any stretch. It just fills a percentage of the audience that just wants something. And that's why I think you're on the money around going deep in this one area and how you've, I would assume you're the market leader in this category at the moment. Would that be right?
I like to think so. Yeah.
Tell me about, in the last 2 years, it's 2 years ago, I think last week, where ChatGPT became on everybody's radar, right? As in the adoption and that, end of the year 2 years ago blew through the adoption of or television, social media, all these different types of things. And what I've seen in the last 2 years is every company out there that have been in business for years and years have all of a sudden bolted the word AI into their name, and they're AI this and AI that and AI something else. I haven't noticed that from Calendly, but my question for you, how do you see AI playing into the mix and particularly perhaps agents, which are going to become a big deal in 2025? How do you see that playing into the mix with Calendly?
Well, I can't give too much information, but I do think that customers who are interested in AI will be heartened to hear that we will be releasing AI-powered products in the future. What I want you to kind of imagine is, all right, if Jeff is saying that this is about, really helping you build those relationships, how can AI help you build those relationships? There's not just scheduling a meeting, which helps you build a relationship, but what about, in the meeting itself? How could AI assist in the meeting so that you can really be present and stare, look in the eyes of the person instead of, maybe like looking down at a piece of paper and scribbling out notes? You can be present. And then what if AI could maybe help you, hypothetically, be able to follow up on that meeting, right? Where you know better what happened. And then maybe what about in terms of like keeping track of all the people that you're meeting, and like how could AI, really help with all of that? And so what I think you're going to see is in the coming future, Calendly will go from where you're not hearing as much about AI to you're hearing a lot about AI.
Interesting. I think there's a massive amount of scope, particularly on pre-research of folks coming in. As I say, I use it a lot for my podcast and, for any kind of just-in-time type information that might have been published by that person or that guest that I'm having coming on, being surfaced, I think would be pretty amazing. Tell me about, from an integration perspective, have you kind of reached the integration limits of the tools out there in the market? Like, do you have a situation where people are going, hey, I need an integration for this, and then you're weighing that up against all the other priorities? Do you see any kind of gaps? Because for mine, I don't see them, but what are you seeing?
Yeah. And one other quick point I want to make about AI is we do this state of meetings report each year where we survey and interview all kinds of people out there, customers and non-customers. And we asked about AI to kind of hear what they're comfortable with. And I think it was like 54%. That was up from the previous year. 54% of people said they were excited about what AI is going to bring. And so we look for signals like that to kind of give us a little bit of boost in terms of, are we on the right track? In terms of integrations, so I would say that's one of the things that if you were to take us and have like a list of all the different competitors, there's dozens of scheduling companies out there. And, we might do this one thing better around like bringing a coworker in a meeting better than this other company, or we might do round robin better where we like share meetings with salespeople depending on when they're available than another company, or they might do some, little other thing better than us. But the one thing that we found that was consistently true across the board is that no one has more and better integrations than Calendly does out there. And it's a lot of work. Like for those of you listening that have maybe worked for a technology company before, what is one of the main things that engineers that are coworkers that complain about? It's having to build a integration with somebody else's API that they don't
changes.
like. Oh, it's REST or it's SOAP
Yep.
or whatever,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so that's one of the main reasons that technology companies don't build more integrations. It's not like they don't know better. It's because it's a lot of work. And then you don't just have to build that integration, but you got to maintain it over time. Like, hey, we're changing our API. You need to update it. Oh, man, engineering team has to go back and make that update. Well, we as a company have really invested in all this engineering talent that helps maintain and build more of those integrations. So I think you'll increasingly see us build, and improve upon our CRM integrations, our calendar integrations, video integrations, those payment integrations you mentioned, marketing automation, so on and so forth.
Yeah. You mentioned your development team, and when I did some research on you, is your development team still predominantly Ukraine-based?
No. Our development team is primarily United States based.
But in the early days, right, the Ukraine companies pretty much built.
Yes.
And your founder, that was the other thing I wanted to highlight, is from Nigeria, right?
Yes.
Which I think is totally epic. As I was saying to you pre-call, the number or the size of the Nigerian community inside Microsoft has absolutely, since probably 2020, exploded all around the world. I'm seeing more and more Nigerians in the community. So when I saw that the founder was Nigerian, I just thought absolutely epic and such a good story worth highlighting.
Yes. And, I didn't know as much about the Nigerian tech community until working at Calendly. And I write this newsletter every month for our customers. It goes out to millions of people. And I have all kinds of replies come from folks from Nigeria, or they'll go on to X and post on X or, about being so proud of Taupe for, being part of the Nigerian tech community. And I started to study up on all these people that are posting, and there's so much engineering and startup talent out there in Nigeria.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's accessible across the Med to a lot of European countries that are then, setting up development centers and stuff on the border of the Med there. Your KPMGs and the like, so I've seen quite a bit of. Tell me, what's the future of meetings? When you think about where we'll be in 5 years from now, will we be doing more remote meetings like this? Will we be doing more in person? What do you think is going to change in the next 5 years? So really, beyond what your product roadmap shows right now, in the thinking of this space, what is it for you?
I mean, I think if you look back, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the way you got business done, whether you were recruiting people or you're trying to land a deal or whatever, it was meetings, right? It was either a meeting in person, a golf course. Yep. Flying to, a customer's location. Mm-hmm. Then it became easier to do, remote meetings via video call. And so meetings have powered the business community for a long time. And then about 10 years ago, some cynicism crept in, particularly around people who maybe were more introverted and they didn't like doing meetings and so forth. And so they started saying things like, this meeting could have been an email, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I've read some long emails and I felt like it could have been a short 5-minute meeting, right? And so what has kind of emerged in that whole anti-meetings world is all kinds of amazing asynchronous or tools that you can use to communicate to somebody, whether it's via Microsoft Teams or it's via a Microsoft doc where, hey, why don't you read what I have to say before coming to the meeting, and then we can debate what was in my doc instead of me doing a readout to you for 30 minutes and you have 5 minutes to debate. And so that's one of the amazing things that's come out is all kinds of culture and tools around maybe not meeting as much when you could have just read about it or watched a video about it, then met. Well, there's kind of been a correction to that where people are like, man, I'm kind of tired of watching really long, hour-long videos by somebody who's kind of rambling and they're not being concise, or they wrote this really long doc and they could have been much quicker with it. And so people are returning to meetings in many ways to try to be able to connect on a human level and maybe be able to read your body language and so forth, to be like, oh, this is what this person's really trying to say. So I think that there will always be this world of, I hope, these asynchronous tools where you can write about things and you can record videos about the things or watch videos from meetings, as well as these in-person moments where you can kind of really get in touch with someone's humanity so that you can move the relationship forward.
Yeah. It's interesting because I see a movement away from those type of meetings being around necessary a business discussion, the boards I'm involved with, I'm like, hey, let's make all board meetings online and let's do the business. And then let's go meet in person and have a drink or have a dinner or something like that. And it's just social. We've covered the business stuff formally, documented, the tooling around AI and meetings now is just, the note-taking ability, etc. It's totally transformed things falling through the gaps in the meetings I'm in. Like when there's an action on me, I can quite clearly see that now. I would hate to step back 2 years and not have that type of functionality in my meeting now. Do you see, and I'm probably asking for a bias confirmation here. I mentor a lot of folks around the world in a program I run, I don't know, for the last 6 years, 7 years now. And one of the things that I think is becoming clearer is the need to be very good on video. As in that more and more meetings, the more and more as we, I suppose, go into a more freelance world even, where, there's been predictions by 2035, over 50% of the US workforce will be contractors, freelancers, that type of thing. And, I'm already seeing it myself in that I work for multiple companies, even though I'm based in the bottom of the world. I work for multiple companies and they all have a segment of my time because I have expertise across various areas. And as the world goes that way, I just see that there's a massive need to be really good at communicating via camera. As in, to be able to understand that you need to engage with the camera. You can't be looking off to the right and think that you're going to have a meaningful conversation. You've seen NVIDIA creating software that keeps your eyes looking at the camera even when you're not, which looks a bit uncanny. But I think that there is this need to get really good at communicating via video for business-based communications. Are you seeing anything in your research, your data, or anything like that around meetings in this context?
I'd agree. I'd say that, particularly in marketing, we read this all the time, that you need to get really great at video and being able to not just make a hi-fi video where you hire somebody and spend a lot of money, but you as an individual have to be good at quickly speaking on camera, doing it in a very natural way, being able to edit on your own, with various easy to use, like my oldest daughter is learning Adobe Premiere, right?
Wow.
Because that whole generation is learning how to create videos, right? So that they can socialize with each other. And so I would say that it's extremely important to be able to speak on camera, be able to do your own editing work, be able to publish it and so forth, and not fret about it too much in terms of like, oh, this has to be perfectly polished.
Correct.
I think the other thing that we're seeing is that people are having all these meetings virtually, and not everybody can attend the meeting. What if the person is in a different time zone? What if they were sick that day? You need to be able to record those meetings, right? And then be able to share those meetings. So there's a lot of companies out there that record all of their internal meetings, not just their customer meetings, but they record their internal meetings, the one-on-ones, the all-hands meetings and all that. And then people can go back and be like, what was that thing that our CEO said 6 months ago? And they can go watch that old recording and be like, oh, that's what they said, right? And so there's this whole culture emerging on just watching recordings and then sharing like little snippets of the recordings, as well as learning more about your customers, your recruits by recording them.
Yeah. Do you think there's still a fear, though, of, we always preface a meeting, hey, is it all right if I record this? I still see some people are like, are you trying to catch me out? Or is this, and am I going to say something on record that I'm going to regret? Do you think that kind of feeling within 3 years, 5 years won't be a thing? As in, it'll be standard that all meetings will be recorded because, as you say, there's going to be time offsets. Not everyone's going to be attend. They need to watch the follow-up or whatever. And it's great content that could be repurposed as well, right? Sometimes you get that soundbite that you're like, wow, let's use that somewhere else. We wouldn't have got that if it hadn't been recorded.
I think that there will be variety in terms of who's going to record internal meetings, like meeting with your boss or you're meeting with the whole company. There's already variety around that and different rules. I think smaller companies do it by and large, but some of the bigger companies have rules against it. But I think what's going to be completely commonplace is you recording external meetings. So recording that meeting with the customer, recording that meeting with the recruit, because that's already happening and a lot of customers are accustomed to it. And so you're going to increasingly see more and more industries outside of tech recording all of their meetings with customers and recruits.
Nice. To wrap up, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I would just say, those of you that use Microsoft, please check out some of our integrations. Some of the things that we allow you to do are you can integrate, with Microsoft Outlook to make sure that your meetings, you're checking to see if you have a meeting already, maybe internally at your company before you book that let a customer book a meeting with you. We got integrations with Microsoft Teams now. We built this with the Microsoft Teams team, where you can be able to get your Calendly meetings to show up in Microsoft Teams. It's really cool. We have an integration with Chrome, which allows you to use the Microsoft Edge capabilities. And then we have the Microsoft Dynamics integration with the CRM so that you can be able to get all of your meetings data with, say, customers into Microsoft Dynamics. And then, of course, you've got the Microsoft Power Automate integration, allows you to build all kinds of things with Microsoft and Calendly.
I like it. Those that want to learn more can visit the Calendly for Microsoft webinar and your Microsoft integration page on your website. We'll get the link to that. We'll put it in the show notes. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Mark, this has been awesome. Thank you. And thank you for being a customer.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP, Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If there's a guest you'd like to see on the show, please message me on LinkedIn. If you want to be a supporter of the show, please check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Stay safe out there and shoot for the stars.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, "Since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income." Or from Parvez, who shares, "I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now." Sign up at arcor.nz365guy.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.